Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another segment of the Urban Academics Roundtable. We are so excited tonight, as we are for any other roundtable, but tonight we are especially grateful to have someone born Brooklyn. And when I say Brooklyn, you know who I'm talking about, because there's not another Brooklyn. So when I say born Brooklyn, I mean born Brooklyn. We have Clairesay, I'm going to say this right, Clairesay Clay, and she's from Brooklyn, named after her daddy and her mama. And so I just wanted to put that out there that we are very, very pleased to have her at the round table tonight, bold enough to sit in this hot chair, accepting all the questions you can drum up for someone who's an educator, an entrepreneur, a producer, a writer, and a mentor to young people near and far. Before we get started tonight, before I allow Kay to come in and introduce Lady Clairesay, I'd like for us to do a quick shout-out. So I want everyone to sort of announce themselves and tell us where you're calling from so that we can figure out who's on the call. I'm away now in Phoenix, and so I cannot see the computer screen. So in order to do a better job of knowing who's on the call and who has questions, we're just going to give real quick a minute for everyone who made it to the call this far. And I know we'll have people join in as they come in, so we're trying to buy a little time so we can figure out who's here on the call with us. So let's shoot out right now. I'm Katrina, and I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona with Lady Kim Singletary, who runs PMASH here in Phoenix.
And I'm Kim Singletary here on the line, too, from Phoenix.
Andre Evans from Boston.
Charlotte. I think we have two talking at once. Please say that again.
Andre Evans from Boston.
Charlotte.
Okay, who came in from Charlotte? Because I didn't hear.
Elsie. Elsie from
Elsie.
Charlotte. Thank you, Elsie. And, is there anyone else on the line? So we have Charlotte, we have New Haven, we have Phoenix, we have Boston, and we have, did someone else just join in?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hi, it's Lene from Howard Beach, Queens.
Hello, we have Lene from Queens. So we have California, we have Charlotte, we have Boston, we have Phoenix twice, we have Kay from Atlanta by way of New Haven, Connecticut, and I think we are off to a running start. And so people who join in from this point will probably not be able to announce themselves unless they have questions. But for those of you who are on the line right now, I am so glad you're here. We are represented in more places than most people. So I am grateful, grateful, grateful. I'm going to turn this over now to Lady Kay, who will introduce the hot seat taker for tonight, Lady Clairesay Clay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome this evening to the Urban Academic Roundtable. I want to first thank God for allowing us to be here this evening and give him all the glory and all the praise. And as we accept all that is going to be provided to us this evening, Lord, let it nourish each and every one. Let it touch our minds so that we can speak the truth and be able to nourish and nurture our community as we come to this table this evening. We are so grateful to have this evening in the hot seat. Thank you, Lord. We are so grateful to have Lady Clairesay Clay, who is born Brooklyn or Brooklyn born. And she has been able to take the intellectual talk on black, brown, and poor peoples to storytelling in a unique fashion. And she is able to tell stories that reflect what is happening for the black, brown, and poor folks. She's a creative entrepreneur and has accepted this tonight's hot seat. So we welcome you, Lady Clairesay. She is also the founder and executive producer of Blerd Cities, which she is going to talk about tonight as well. Exciting. The word blurred, taken from Black and Nerd, wonderful, creative. Oh, my God, I just can't wait to hear a little bit more about Blerd Cities' role and her vision for that. She is an educator, an entrepreneur, a writer who has developed cultural programs in films, visual arts, and literature, serving in conjunction with academic and artistic organizations, as well as many independent artists with whom she's had the pleasure of working with. To date, she has supported many cultural projects presented by a few of the following: the New York University's Institute of African American Affairs, the Organization of Women Writers for Africa, where the Yuri Pamberi, which is the Black Writers Dissecting Globalization Conference. She has contributed to the American Museum of Natural History with the Kwanzaa celebration and many other collaborative projects, as well as in-kind work. Clairesay currently sits on the board of advisors for Real Sisters, and as well as a board member for the Image Nation Cinema Foundation, Incorporated. Her debut film garnered notable awards, and she is also a published writer. For the past 20 years, she has taught English with the New York City Department of Education, serving urban inner city youth and students. It is an honor and a privilege to introduce tonight's guest at the round table. So, family, show some love for Lady Clairesay. Clay.
Thank you.
Yay! Yay!
Beautiful introduction. The
floor is yours, Lady Clairesay.
My life has spanned many different ways. When I was young, I thought I'd go into acting. I still act up, I tell people. But love is also with some acting, and got a chance to learn acting from Miss Gertrude Jeanette, who passed away at 100 and something a couple of years ago. She was really good friends with Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee. That's how I got to meet Maya Angelou. And a few other notable people. Started acting under her, the Hadley Players, that was from Harlem. I've done poetry. I've performed poetry. I even had my name up on the Apollo to read poetry. With that day, we had Amiri Baraka was the named person that was reading, but I've done a lot of different areas and going through different roads. I've published as a poet. Also got into doing my own film called In Remembrance, and it was the same year Spike Lee did about the 4 girls who were bombed in Birmingham, Alabama. It's my friend Letta Neely's poem, which shoe belongs to who. And I think I got the title a little messed up, but it was about the 4 girls. So I took Letta Neely and as the poet and made her the central character. And then I had 4 girls to play the 4 girls, and we went to church, and they passed the plate, and laughing and giggling. I wanted us to remember in the film that these girls were real human beings, just being girls, and that the bomb and racism killed them, much like is going on today. That we have what happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and that history that keeps repeating itself, because if you look, there's like photos 50 years ago, Stop Police Brutality. You have Malcolm X saying the same thing. Police brutality has been in our community a long time. I'm raised in East New York, so I did a little research, and they were talking about how when the new group of Irish, because I think it was first German, and when you go to East New York, which is now populated by people of color, you would never know that it was once German people there, Irish, Jewish, and so forth. But the German sometimes fighting or in the buildings and so forth. But this has been a journey for us as people. And with my journey, I have joined different, I guess you could say, political organizations, like a sisterhood that was called Soul Sisters, that was started by Lisa Williams, but her name is not Lisa. She goes by the name Sister Soldier, that wrote the book. Most people know her by her book, and she started a sisterhood. And when she left, we just continued as a sisterhood, and that was a very impactful group in my life. Have been around, started volunteering with different film organizations. One was with Warrington Hutland. I know I say I've grown as a person, and I tell Warrington, I said when I first got there, I was just a volunteer, but now as I've grown in the different film area, he actually knows my first and last name, so I felt like, oh, I've grown as a person. Warrington Hutland is Warrington and Reginald Hutland are the brothers that did House Party. They did the original, and then it's the commercial one. They did Boomerang and things like that. They're part of that black male pack. Like it's Spike Lee, it's a bunch of them. Key and Ivory, Wayne, they're in that particular group for directing. I had volunteer at what is called Black Filmmakers Foundation, BFF. When I first met them, they started on 14th Street, and at the time I didn't know 14th Street in New York City in Manhattan. At the time that office, they were in. I would look to my right because I'm, doing volunteering, being a receptionist. I would look to my right, and there was a filmmaker, him and his wife. And then years later, I had learned the impact of Mr. William Greaves, who's one of our premier documentarians. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he is such a major powerhouse. And see him and his wife doing, like, literally going through different papers that they're researching to do their next project. Like one of his projects that I like, it was on Ida B. Wells. So got to meet him and his wife, Louise. She's still living, so I get to see her once in a while at a mutual friend's birthday, whose birthday is today. Got involved with the Black Documentary Collective that was started by another premier documentarian named St. Clair Bourne. And St. Clair Bourne, I think one of his last films was on Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, who, like in New York City, is not Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark is one of our premier historians, and both names go together a lot of times because they would actually teach Black history to the community, Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben. And Saint, as he's called for short, did a film on Dr. Clark that was funded by Wesley Snipes. And in BDC, we got to learn about a lot of our Black filmmakers. And then out of that group, there were different documentarian filmmakers, narrative filmmakers. Got to meet Stanley Nelson and a few other documentarians that are our premier documentarians. Because when people would say that we don't have films, we have a lot of work. It's like Sonia Sanchez, the poet, would say, y'all don't study us. And she was talking to a Black audience. Y'all don't study us. Our breadth of work that we have dedicated to you. To have had the honor, one of my favorite films, when I was in the sisterhood that came out, was Daughters of the Dust. And when we went as a sisterhood to go see the film. And I'm sitting in the film kissing my skin, literally just, I was like, dang, I did not know this looked so pretty on that screen. Yeah. Because I've had, coming from East New York, I've had the experience of I have a early admiration for Spike Lee because he employed Black people in the front of the camera and in the back of the camera, and even some of his crew members lived in East New York, so I would see them with their jackets on. So there's always been this, this tangential love of film. But back to Daughters of the Dust, it was literally sitting in that theater kissing my skin because I was like, oh my God, I did not know. I just felt so validated. At that film, it just it touched me in so many levels. Storytelling, how can we tell our stories? Because I think Tina said something about storytelling. Kay said something about storytelling earlier. How do we? It's not only telling our
Help
stories.
Help him with the blankets.
But telling our stories in our way. And not saying that it's not Hollywood based. It's not for to say commercial use. It's telling it so that it hits the community that it was made for. And that's another level of Daughters of the Dust. Julie Dash and the cinematographer Arthur Jaffa. They both, on both levels, read the book, and then it moved into my writer side, which in the front of Daughters of the Dust, the book, not the book, the script, the publishing of the script is Tony K. Bambara, and Tony K. Bambara wrote this book called My Gorilla. It's a novel because I used to think I was going to go that way too. I have a writer side. And the opening of that book is, I think I have the Gorilla My Name or something. But the writer is Tony K. Bambara. There's the main character, a Black female, that climbs into an oven. And the other character says, do you want to be healed? And I was floored by the opening of that novel. And she Tony K. Bambara went on to write I have the book somewhere in the house, I just haven't read it, where she talks where she dedicated her life to the Atlanta killings and to further documenting, we're all like what Langston Hughes say, we're all libraries, and if you think of us as libraries, how big and breadth is the Library of Congress, and we have that knowledge to know that we've been traumatized. I was not in Atlanta, but I was traumatized, or was that PTSD? We have so many compounds. I don't say her name right, but because she has a new name, but it was Joy Every or something like that. she's another historian. She says it correctly. Like, there's no time in, like, she said we was in slavery. Then after slavery was Jim Crow. After that was this, was civil rights. Then after that was this. And it's like there has been no time that we have not been traumatized. And to think of that and to look at my, like my grandmother and know that she has her time period where she has her stories of being traumatized, or family talking about the trauma of seeing the chain gangs and knowing that someone got, some family member got put into prison. And it could have been something so trivial, like something that is like worth like 25 cents, but they spend like 30 years of their life for that 25 cent thing. Like I'm thinking of George Jackson, who Angela Davis went. It's a whole political person, but like he did some wrong, and then he became conscious in prison, and to know that what he did does not equate to what they did to him in prison, and to know that those kinds of things and injustice, to know that somebody's like, just not to say George Floyd was killed, but to equate that with someone was wrongly accused of doing something because their skin is black and they stayed in prison for 30 to 40 years. That's death also. Whether the person comes out like, no, I want to move on with my life and stuff. How could you can't, because you was already stolen. You're a stolen life. But that's another thing. So, politics is something I like. I wish I was a stronger activist, but I still speak on that kind of way and try to wrong some injustice that is in front of me. So that's also a part of who has made me, and the books I was given to read and study and research, and the talks and the seminars that I would go to. Like I would say for Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, it was a church on 145th Street that you would go to, and you would hear Dr. Jeffries, you would hear Dr. Scobie, you would hear Dr. Ivor Van Sertima, and you know that being black is, or melanin. There's a poet named Saul Williams that says, like, I think it's in one of his poems, is like he was trying to define God or just say how infinite we are. He said, I'm talking about the black beyond that black. So, like, we look up in the sky, we see the black. Where it's like, no, I'm talking about the black behind that black. That's how infinite we are. And if we think of ourselves as that huge, and that's what I try to pass on to people sometimes, that's like, we can't, sometimes at my job I can't walk like that, but I know, like, when someone is trying to intimidate me or make me feel little, or looking at my skin and judging me based off of that and not off of my mind or my ability, that's where that stuff, like, I'll just, keep perspective. You are great. You are from greatness. And so that's that side. So I would, for Real Sisters, I'm a co-founder of. I started, that's Real Sisters is a film festival that is dedicated to women of color that are in the power position. A power position in a film would be like an editor, would be the screenwriter, would be the director, would be the producer, in one of those major positions, so that it's saying that the influence of that film should be coming out with a certain language, with a certain respect of the community that it's servicing. So I programmed for that festival for about 11 years, and then I stepped away for a while, but I'm on the board of advisors. This is one of my is a beautiful accomplishment to see the filmmakers that grew from there, that I got to meet at an early stage of their career. Some of the filmmakers that are more prominent to have met through Real Sisters has been really great. Like one time, I get fixated on certain people and stuff, so I wanted to really meet Lynetta McKee. I was like, I'm going to meet this woman. I say, at the time, I knew she lived in Brooklyn. I said, and I told her, I was like, and I knew you lived on this particular block. And it was like, I had said I wanted to honor her, and I had threw her name out as a way to honor on Real Sisters. And got in touch with someone, and they said, well, I can't give you Lynetta McKee's number, but can you fax me something? I said, yes, I can. And I faxed them a letter to say that we would like to honor Lynetta McKee. And it was at the time where I had a phone that had what's that, a voicemail? Not the voicemail, but it's like that thing, the one that you rewind to listen. Left a message. And I'm like, Lynetta McKee just left a message on, and I played it, and I told her I played it like for a week because I kept rewinding it, and I was like, oh my God. She called me. And to meet her and to know that she's just as wonderful and beautiful and gracious and sisterly in person. So there's a lot of people that have touched my life in many different ways. You talked about Yari Bimbari. The first one, I remember I think I was in college, and I unfortunately didn't make that first one. The second one, I said, damn sure I'm going to make it. Why? It was the most important place to have ever been. I have the pleasure, her name is Jane Cortez. Jane Cortez has now passed on, but Jane Cortez, there's certain, like I have poetry books with her poetry in. Her poem about rape is like the most, cutting poem I've ever read. Jane was phenomenal. And Jane was the organizer of Yari Bimbari. That's the name of it. And she brought international women of color writers, speakers, and it was a conference at NYU. I got to meet Octavia Butler before she passed away. It's Alice Walker sitting in the conference with her. One of my favorite photographers, Carrie Mae Williams, got to talk with her. Not only talk with her, I told her that I couldn't, at the time, I couldn't afford one of her books, and she actually sent me her book, like for free. And she said, give me your address. And the wealth of writers that participated, there was Jane also kept it intergenerational. So I got to meet, like in college, I read about Alexander Pushkin, the black male that actually influenced, a Russian black male that influenced Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, that influenced writers that are in America also. So I read his biography and everything. So Yari was a Russian black woman, and you're looking up that's a black woman speaking Russian. It's like that, but it's in English, but it has that Russian tone to it. You're like, oh my God! And beautiful information, the different women that Jane gathered. Jane was also part of a sisterhood. I call it a sisterhood. It's a group of writers. And Jane had asked me one day, she said, Clairesay, do you have your camera? Because I just bought me a video camera. And I said, yes, Jane. She said, I want you to film something for us. I said, okay. And I said, and Jane, you can't pay me. She said, I said, so Jane calls me, and she says, are you still coming? I said, yes, I am. And she goes, well, Maya, blah, 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 blah. I said, wait a minute. The only Maya I know that would know Jane will be Maya Angelou. She had, the event was to honor Maya Angelou, so I got to video Maya Angelou, and at the time, Sapphire, who wrote Push, was also being honored that night. That's the kind of circle that Jane Cortez was in. And it's like came to mind J.E. Franklin, who's like another writer and a filmmaker. It's like you get to know this. Someone was talking about something I was listening to earlier, was talking about hidden figures. We have so many hidden figures, and it is our job to reclaim those figures and talk about those figures, because no one is going to do that for us as Black women. We have to do the singing. We have to beat the drums. So Yari Penbari has influenced my curating, to try always to think intergenerational, to honor what came before me and came after me. I've had a lot of good fortune to have been in different arenas, because I'm laughing because, like, I was watching OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, and they had honored, like, one of my favorite sculptors is Elizabeth Catlett. When I came out of a train station in Manhattan, they was having, I think it was in the 60s or the 70s in Manhattan, and people make fun of the way I say Manhattan. It's all right. You got your R's happening again when I say Manhattan. It's like this. It was an exhibition about Black women sculptors, like Augusta Savage, and there was a piece with Elizabeth Catlett did in wood, and there's a Black woman with her right hand up in the fist. That wasn't the part that impressed me. The part that impressed me was that the head was not bowed down. And I was like, oh my God. She was saying this, it was no sorry for whatever she was standing for. This is here I am. And I kept walking around that sculpture, and then got the chance to meet Elizabeth Catlett. So on Oprah Winfrey, before Elizabeth Catlett had passed away, before Maya Angelou had passed away, had did this whole dinner of, I think, 100 Black women, like Janet Jackson was there, Diana Ross and stuff. But she was honoring and saying, I thought Oprah was saying, I'm honoring you because you have not been honored by community, by sisters. She gave them, her and Gail spent a year figuring this thing out, and I think they gave them diamond earrings, and they were asking, was it real? And after that, I said, oh my God, they picked diamonds because you're saying you're the most precious thing in the world. A diamond is the most precious thing in the world. So, And then Oprah's last words were, and it still was not enough. I was like, why did she say that? And then I realized because no matter what level we are in exposure as Black females, or just as Black people, but I'm speaking to the body that I'm in as a Black woman, there's no matter what level, we are persecuted in some kind of way. And that persecution does not go away with money, does not go away with fame, does not go away. It's like a daily thing. But Jane Cortez I'm glad to have had her as a person that showed her humanity to me and to so many other people. When she has a poem, and Sonia Sanchez said we need to always take a poem with us. So I think it was in Mexico, and I was in Mexico. I was telling this yesterday. I have a love for the artist Frida Kahlo, and I had just discovered her, and I wanted to get to the Blue House. We're in Mexico, and we get to meet this organization, and there was a short Latina elder, like a grandmother, that came in the space, and it just like took my breath away. She just took my breath away because I just saw so much history in her face, and I was just moved by her. So when we was leaving, there was a tree, and Jane has a poem called, I think it goes, every time I see a tree, I see a Black woman, and every time I see a tree, I see a Black woman. So I just started saying that while I'm in Mexico, and I'm like, oh, okay. And like the rhythm, Say again. Hello?
Oh, no, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, thank you. So I'm in Mexico saying that poem. There's some other poem, like my favorite poem is, by June Jordan. I wish I could jump up and get the book and read it to you. It's a poem about my rights. And when some poet friend had me read it out loud. And that has been an influential poem on my life, where it starts out that it's like, she's like, I'm at a school that like her father can't come to the campus without being persecuted, like being, like why are you here, kind of a thing. And it's like, that's the man that paid for my, education. And she's like, this is a poem about my rights. And then it's basically saying that how she doesn't have any rights. And she breaks, and it's like from a female perspective, but brings in about her father and other issues. And then she takes it to Namibia and all these other places, like, because we kind of think of things in micro space, like if we think of it like just happening to us and happening to our community, then happening to our state, to our country, and then not thinking how that also is being impacted worldly. I think this is why I like this protest, because it's happening all over the world. To look at the Aborigines protesting and saying and getting arrested and beat up by the cops in Australia, and the words that coming out their mouth is Black Lives Matter. And it's like, yes. So my film, my writing, my experiences comes from that particular lens. Seeing a photo of Emmett Till when I was little, I guess working up a consciousness to say, I am my people being treated wrong. Like this, like I just looked at that picture. I don't even know how many days. I remember just holding on to that Jet magazine, and it wasn't. I'm not old enough for when it happened, but it was commemorating when it happened, and it just struck me, and it hit me deeply. So that's some of the stuff that formed me. Now, I had the chance to advance it a little bit. Had a chance to work on a project a few years ago, and it was working for someone else's project. And I told myself, you need to stop doing that, Clairesay. You help a lot of other people, but you don't help yourself. You don't go and build yourself. So I said, okay. And I'm talking to myself. I said, okay. I got you. Got you, girl. So I decided that I would like to do a conference myself. And the conference is called Blerd City, BLERD, BL from Black, and ERD for nerd. Now, I am a nerd. People have asked me, what are you a nerd in? And it's a lot of different things, and to name it all, I couldn't. I like animation, but I like a certain type of animation. There's a film called Spirited Away. It's a Japanese film that it won the Oscars and all that stuff, but it's how it's made, the lyricalness of it, the storytelling, the shots selected. My best friend makes fun of me. She's like, who watch a film and say, oh, that was directed really good, or that look at that cinematography.
A student of film.
Me. She makes so much fun of me, but I love that. I love art. I love video installation. I love storytelling any kind of way. I had the pleasure of telling Clairesay Williams, and I actually have a photo on my bookshelf of she has the kitchen table series, and it's just one shot. Is a postcard I bought at the Studio Museum of Harlem, and it's her. It's her sitting at the kitchen table with a cigarette. The cigarette is not in her mouth, but in her two fingers. And across from her, diagonally, is a male. And just the way she shot it with the lights, you can see the smoke coming up in the air. You know that an argument has taken place. And as the female, she's sitting back as to how I'm going to address this. And it's the way, and it's a black and white photo. And I said, it tells such a story. Just that one shot says, it's like a family memory, I guess it clicked into your parents having an argument, or you're in the kitchen, or food is about to be served, or got to do the dishes. It just unrolled so many stories, and I was like, in just that one shot that she captured, a very influential person. Also, I like listening to her speak too. She's done some really interesting work here in New York City recently, in gathering I think 100 artists or something like that. So you had a day full of just listening to different artists' work, poems, and so forth. But Blerd City is my baby. I got there to make my own conference. I went to the Studio Museum of Harlem exhibit on Afrofuturism, and they had books, they had art, they had film. Now, the film was what really captured me, and I said, oh, that's what you're going to do. You're going to do a conference you're going to do a film conference a film festival around Afrofuturism. So I wanted to gather all these films about Afrofuturism. And I started, I went up to the bookstore and I got the book about the exhibition. And one of the artists had the word Blerd in it. like, I've never seen that word. What does that mean? I looked it up, Black nerd. I said, that is me. I said, I nerd out. It has to, it depends on the conversation. You will pull it out. It's like it'll just come out just naturally. It'll be someone that I've investigated, like when I was really deep into like Frida Kahlo, like I met people from Mexico that would know stories about her. I would ask them questions, so not only have information that was in books, but then also, you know, stories that was passed down about the oral history about Frida. That's like me nerding out. It was like I did that about the other artist, Salvador Dali. Did that about. I started. My aunt would ask me, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, Salvador Dali, Dali, Dali. So she brought me the books that year, and I when I went on my Europe trip in England, I think at one of the galleries, and saw his work, and then in France, in Paris, got to see like a whole exhibition of his work, and from there, I was like, who is this person? And I just started talking about him a lot, and then started meeting other artists, like found that he actually was here in Brooklyn, and downtown Brooklyn was what is now Macy's, used to be A&S, and it's like, Salvador Dali did an exhibition in A&S, and there's a photo of him, and the person had told me that he did, and I found the photo, which actually validated that. That would be my nerdy side. Like, hold information and do research in that kind of way. So Blerd City was this would have been my 4th year of doing the conference. Which means that invite different people to come. Like it touches my different loves. First love, film has to be involved, and we get sci-fi films, fantasy films. We get sci-fi, fantasy, and I'm missing horror, because I'm a little chicken, but horror is a big interest also. But like more on a Get Out level of horror, like the psychological horror. We've shown animation. We've had a few of the top Black sci-fi writers, and that has been impressive. Have a great friend for a long time. Her name is Cherie Renee Thomas. She did a book called Dark Matters, where it's Octavia Butler is one that wrote a short story. Samuel Delaney, who's another one of our great writers, and it was a whole book of people of color that write science fiction. So she, at the time, was a term called Black Speculative. We honored her the first year. There's a award that we have called L.A. Banks. Got the chance to meet L.A. Banks here in New York City before she passed away. There's the thing called National Black Writers Conference, and she was there. And I got to, like, across the street from there is, like, my favorite, like, it's a cheap restaurant you can get for, at the time, it was like $3. And I used to live around the corner. It was like you get, like, a half a chicken and some rice and some some cabbage. And you're laughing, but I was like,
long time ago.
I love them. It was,
I know that spot.
And it's like, and they're still there, and I go and say, and I say hello to them, because they've saved me when I came home from work and didn't have any food in the house, and I only had was quarters. I gave them the quarters just as proudly as I've given them dollars, and they've always taken it. I was like, I come by, I make sure to say hello to them every time I'm at Mega Everest. It's one of my favorite spots. So we're sitting there, and L.A. Banks was I was sitting at a table with a friend. She was across, and we all started having a conversation. And I had already read one of her books, and then a friend of mine that had passed away named Carolyn Johnson had me read her series. Is a black female lead as like a vampire. It's a vampire series, and she's killing the vampires. And Carolyn would call me by the character's not real name, but a name for her, my Metsu Tara. And I was like, okay, so I had to read this story. So in honor of my friend Carolyn and in honor of L.A. Banks, I made an award at Blerd City. We also have comic book artists they sell their comic books. They also are featured. Like one of my favorite series is called Black, Black. Kwanzaa Saji Fu is one of the writers, is the writer. And what struck me about that particular comic book was that it had a character drawn on the front that had the hood on. And I knew immediately that was Trayvon Martin. I was like, buying it. Person didn't even have to sell me on it. Like, hey, you don't need to say it. I'm just buying this book. And it's a great series. We have comic books. We have people that do cosplay. Cosplay is costume, a person dressing up in a costume. It could be of their favorite character. Like I had learned that, which I've done, but even a person that came to as a character from a book. And I was like, oh, I like that cosplaying because, you had to ask them a question about, like, what is your costume about? And then you find out that it was from a book. And then you go and you do a little either go and read the book or you go and research a little bit more about the book. We have all kinds of things. It's mainly to celebrate, and it's really to celebrate being intellectual. And that's how the conference started. And that's what I hold dear, that to bring people in front of our people to say, like, they are the experts in their field. And they're passing that knowledge on or giving you a little insight as to what they're doing. So that has been fun the last 4 years.
Yes. No doubt about it. The intellectuals are here at the Urban Roundtable every Thursday at 9:30. And when we started right at 9:30 on the nose. And by 9:03, there was already California, there was Atlanta, there was New Haven, there was Charlotte, there was Phoenix ×2, there was Boston, and I think I'm missing somebody. But if there's anyone who joined the call since Lady Clairesay had done her introduction, please feel free to shout yourself out and where you are calling from. Come on, let's not all speak at once. If I could see my computer, I would shout you out myself. We know you're here.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Hi, this is Katora from New Haven.
Yay. Hello. Nice to see you. Whoop, whoop, whoop. We've got more New Haven. Anyone else join the call? I can try to get on and see, but come on, be forthright. Who's on the call? Hello. So we've got New Haven, California, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Connecticut, New Haven, and Phoenix. Did I miss anyone?
You missed me,
New
Charlotte.
York, I'm sorry, New York. Charlotte, yes, Charlotte and New York. New York ×2 or 3, I think. There's quite a few from New Haven usually. Why are you so shy? I have to get on this computer to shout you out. So, with that said, I mean, I'm sure there are lots of questions, and of course we have our own share of them. But I have one around Blerd City. I just think the concept is awesome. I think the acronym is awesome. The word choice is awesome. And it's funny that you would say black nerds, because that's the one thing we don't want to do, or we don't want to be. Our children don't want to be identified as smart for some reason. So help us to at least go there right now for a few minutes around what made you bold enough to choose to call your own self a nerd in order to make it popular.
Oh, because I've been called a nerd, and it's something at first I would shy away about, because people can get intimidated by intelligence, and you notice it, but you're not. It's not something like forcing onto somebody. It could just be you name something, or we're having a discussion, and I just have read, saw, or did something a little bit more than another person. So, but that would still make someone uncomfortable and uneasy. Mm-hmm. So I would shy away from it. It made me stand up in my nerdiness. Is the courage. I think it was more about excitement to see what, because I still have a lot of growing in that area to do, because I just like knowledge like that. I'm a student for life. Even though I teach, I'm a student for life. I love learning, and I love passing knowledge on. And since that is a part of my teaching, it's also a part of my art. I love for people to pass information on to other people, to say, like, here's something to help you, or here's something that you might not have been clear about. So taking this step was also inspired by a friend of mine. She's like, that's what you want to do? She said, let's do it. And she said it just like that. And she's like, you have something here. Let's go. And she said I programmed in less than 2 months, the very first one. And I didn't know she was timekeeping me. And I just knew, because that's my curatorial side, I like bringing people that other people might not know about, and for you to get introduced to them. So that's where I guess the courage that came from.
Well, I like it, and I think if anyone is on this call on a Thursday evening at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, we probably all have a little bit of nerd in us. And most likely we are lifelong learners. And we come to the table to learn, and we're grateful that you're here, and you're just so filled with one point. I was almost in tears when you started to give the accolades to all the women who sort of been in the front lines and hadn't received what they should ingest. And I just think it's awesome that you're able to share your experience with us, and so freely that you give. And so I encourage you guys to, if you have questions around storytelling, around Black, brown, and poor people, and how we have seen ourselves portrayed on television. I think Jimmy Kimmel just did an apology for all the times he's done blackface. So what's happening now in the world that makes everyone want to be pro-Black or conscious of Blackness all of a sudden?
Because they found out that Black people are strong. We have existed and gone through a whole lot of trauma and all things that had happened to us, and we're still surviving.
Now, that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the
and with that said, and with that self chiming in from Phoenix, Arizona, Kim Singletary, I would like to challenge every one of us that comes on to this roundtable every week on newcomers that are coming in the future, that we think of a way that not just to talk about what we've been through and all those things. Maybe we can come up with a way where we can collaborate with all of the resources in the sisterhood organizations that you have to put together something where it would be ours and we can grow from that. And I say that in the sense to say, because I happen to be a visionary and I am strong on education and educating our young youth, I still believe to this day that going back to the old days with the PBS commercials, with the Zoom, with the Schoolhouse Rock commercials that used to come on when I was growing up as a kid, helped me understand a little bit about politics. When the news comes on, I'll give you a good example of what I mean. I feel that because we have come to this stage in our lifetime with the riots and all that kind of stuff, because I don't believe there's a corona out here. I have always have a strong and a political position that Corona stands for control of restructuring our nation's America. And if you stop to think about it, that's what it's doing. Things are closing down, you're losing jobs, all that kind of stuff. So we have to come up with new ideas. They've already started to begin the process of how they were going to construct and restruct this when they brought the Corona in. I would just like for us all to think about being ahead of the game. And by being ahead of the game, when they show on the TV about President Trump talking about any kind of political thing, maybe there should be a commercial. So if a kid is watching there with his family, he can kind of understand the process of the political steps, maybe at a level that he would understand, like on Schoolhouse Rock when they taught you how to multiply and all that kind of thing. But the whole thing as a whole, I'm saying, is if we work with Sisterhood, PMARSH, all the organization, writers, directors, film editors, maybe we can collaboratively come up with something like Ice Cube and a couple of other them, and then all come together. And that's the only way I feel that they'll listen. We do have the protests in this city and that city and this city and that city. If all the cities came together and said, we have this organization that represents push in Atlanta, push in Carolina, push in Phoenix, push in there, it's all one. When you think about it all as one, it's not 500 in California. It's not the 200 plus the 500 in California. It's globally.
Thank you.
And
how long has push been around?
You got it on speaker. You're standing outside and I'm inside. That's why you hear the echo.
How long has push been around? Operation Push.
How long has Operation Push been around? Can someone help me with that? A long time, no?
Yes.
Yes. No.
Right? How long has NAACP been around? A long time, huh?
1906 for the NAACP.
Yeah, so how long has United Way been around? These are the same agencies who've been a part of the oppression.
Correct.
And so all the money that's floating around right now, everybody's giving it away. They're giving it to the same agencies that's been around for 60 years, watching all the injustice, sitting there watching, doing nothing about it. So we're just recreating the same. So I agree with what Lady Kim said from Phoenix, that we should get together and collaborate. And I think we're starting that process by coming to the roundtable. But, again, we do need to do more than talk. I'm for that. But I'm just having a hard time with the powers that be thinking that disseminating money to the same exact people, the same exact organizations, the same exact movements, how is that going to make a difference? These are the children that's changing the world, and they don't have an organization. All they have is their drive and their passion.
What if we all were to gang up all of them at the same time, the sisterhoods, the push organization, all at the same time, then it'll get the same kind of reaction that these protesters are. That's just the way I see it. I could just be talking off the top of my head, but if we all pushing, how come you're not talking about education? And I want to know, what are you doing about education? Where's the money going? If it's coming from organizations that are, known black authors or writers or film directors and that kind of stuff, all consistently at one time. That's what I think they're not getting. They may get a straddle here because it's from me. I'm calling in Phoenix, and I'm just only one mother and one person, one black person. And then, there's somebody sending it from New York. But if organizations all come together knowing that they have an organization of 500 people and push, and they have an organization of the sisterhood that consists of 300 people, they look at it differently in numbers. I think that's what you're seeing on TV now.
You're right. And to be honest, you only need 7 letters. You don't need 300. You only need 7 saying the same thing, pretty much. But there have been black politicians in the circle forever that's never told you that.
Correct.
They never said all you got to do is write 7 letters, get you, your mama, your brother, your cousin, and your sister, and you got 7 letters. But we don't know the process.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add, there's a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and by Pablo Claire. And in it, he says, you do not...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said there's a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Pablo Claire. And what in it, the one thing that I took away from it as an educator, as a black person, as a woman, as whatever labels you could put onto me, is his line that said, you do not give your children, you do not let the oppressor teach your children, because they'll teach them themselves. And once we have, our fight has been many different ways. Because if you looking at Hidden Figures, look how brilliant they were. Look at that teaching. We don't have that kind of teaching or that kind of structure.
Absolutely. My point saying there were 4 women that were together. That kind of, that's what made me think of what I had said. I'm sorry. That's moving along. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No. As doing that segregation where they had teachers that were from their community, that was a part of their community, does make a difference of the transmission of education, of the push that particular teacher does for that child and challenging of that child. It is very hard that this education system is not going to teach the majority of our children to be brilliant. There's some that get through, but it's not going to be the majority.
Can you speak, this is Kay Harvey.
How true is that?
A little bit, Clairesay, about your transition from going from the classroom to the virtual teaching and how that had an impact on your teaching style, and then how the children receive and what's going on with the parents as they, help, I hope, participate in the child's transition to this virtual learning. Can you just talk a little bit about how that affected your teaching style and what's going forward with the education system as you teach from your experience?
My teaching style is always the same. My student, a former student, identified it for me. She said, Ms. Clay, you teach with humor. You catch us with the humor, and then you push the education on us. And that's how you have to make the classroom comfortable and non-intimidating. The virtual, my virtual experience with teacher that I'm working with was similar. It was some students didn't have Wi-Fi, so we had to send good thing. I think was it Verizon or Spectrum? One of them had like a way for you just sent them the link and they was able to get Wi-Fi. Some students didn't have laptops, didn't pick up the laptop. So we had to have requested for them to get an iPad. Then somewhere like it literally, if we started in March, I think sometime in May is when I found out that what I see on my desktop computer is not what the child sees on that iPad. It would be different. So because I was like, there was this one child. I was like, okay, up in the right corner, there's this star. Can you go right? Can you take your mouse and just move it up there? I was like, and I was getting indignant with the child, like it's right there. Like, why haven't you not seen it? And then I was like, okay. I was like, go get your father's phone. And she went and got her father's phone. I said, okay, now show me what you see. Like okay, let's FaceTime each other. I said, now turn the phone. Let me see this iPad. Let me see what your screen is showing. Because I was like, it got to be there. She turned it and it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, I am so sorry. And the iPad, because the program, like they say, even something simple as Gmail, will not be the same functions or the same keys that I would have on my desktop computer will not be the same that they had on that iPad. What I have as automatic on my Gmail as like saying like I will have Meet, I will have a few other apps. That did not come with the iPad. They had to download it. And then there was restrictions as to what they could and could not download. And literally it was learning this as we were going. And it was one parent. Now I almost came through the phone because I called the parent and I said, I need for your child to get on the computer. And then the parent goes, somehow in the conversation, I said, oh, don't the child see it on her email? And I'm talking about her Gmail that we have in common, access through the school. And the mother was talking about the child's personal email. I was like this, hold it. I was like, there has been some great moments with some parents. Like there's one child's parent. She is on it. She has her child up at 8 o'clock in the morning, basically keeping the child on the same schedule. He's doing his assignments and every assignment. She is not playing with the education of her child. Other things, the independence of it, where you have to create assignments where literally the child has to do it themselves versus you teaching them through. That's a big learning curve because you can't there's only certain things you can. And that's just because of our eyes, our physicality, our mental stamina. You can't teach everything through it. It's a lot more independence for the child, which is some good and some bad. I've had children up at 11 o'clock at night doing assignments, 3 o'clock in the morning doing assignments, and I was like, wow, this child functions better later than early. In which they know that statistically that's true, as studies that I think it's middle school or high school, but I know for sure for high school that starting later instead of earlier helps the brain development of a high school child or a student. But they still do early. So it's been a lot of stuff. Is there something specific that you was Kay, that you was interested in about virtual learning? As a platform, we use Google Classroom. That's been pretty good. You can put the assignments on and create the assignments in math, English, social studies, science. They still meet their science teacher. They still meet their gym teacher because everyone has their set time
does it give you cancer?
To have that, to meet their teacher of that subject.
Okay. I'll be like drinking it every single day. I should go get some real water now. You come with me. Are you going downstairs?
Is there any other questions or thoughts or responses? Oh.
Hello, ladies.
Yeah.
Hello.
Is that a school-age baby?
Hello. Hello, this is Katora. Can you hear me? I hear a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
This is Elsie.
I was listening to the sister from Phoenix regarding, us kind of coming together as a collaborative, as a unified voice, and just thinking of the diversity that, we do have the opportunity to come together with all of our diversities to be creative, and that this really, this time may be doing black people in particular a blessing during this testing time. And we've always been resilient. This is not the first time that we've always been in this situation. They're talking about unemployment or health care, whatever. But now we have the opportunity to come together as a community and create our own. And homeschooling, we have to reframe that. There are some parents that believe that they are not, quote unquote, cut out to homeschool. And that's okay. But we can form homeschool collaboratives where, if I'm a healthcare provider, then perhaps I can dedicate myself to, once a month or do a series on some aspect of healthcare even for children, if that's my specialty, or for teenagers and young adults that are in high school, perhaps to give them an interest in going into medicine. But we have the resources, and we should not discount the richness of every community, and that these, my grandchildren are in a collaborative, and the woman that's running it is out of Philadelphia, and we're in New Haven. Because of technology, we have no boundaries. And like you said, they're talking about Black Lives Matter in Australia because the sickness of racism has permeated every corner of the globe. And every country has their history of being dishonest, disrespectful, abusive, and traumatizing to Black and brown people. So, when people were saying, well, why are they doing a Black Lives Matter in Australia? Have you even begin to look at the history of what they've done to the Aboriginal people? South Africa. Great Britain. It does not matter. The impact of this constructed disease has impacted every corner of the globe. And the Creator has blessed us to be resilient through it. Hidden Figures was just not even a speck of dust on the radar screen of our contribution. Not even a speck of dust. When you think about anything and everything, when you think about anything and everything that we have that people touch today has been a result of the imagination of Black and brown people.
Yes.
Space, you can go space, you can go to the depths of the sea, and just how
North Pole.
even with a foot on my neck, my back, my legs, it's like I said to somebody, I said, being Black in America is like Houdini. They tied his hands, they closed the box, they put a lock on the box, they threw him into some water.
Wow.
And that is what privilege looks like. You want to know what privilege looks like? And then you put me under the water, and then you tell me, okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how long, you know what I'm saying? You have already started the race. I got to figure out how to save my life, first of all. I got to figure out how do I get out of this cage? How do I get out of this bondage? How do I get out in order for me to even begin the race? So don't, please, you trying to figure out, what do you mean by privilege? Seriously, people? Ask Houdini. That is what privilege looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these skills. We have it. We just have to We have a lot of work to do, Lord knows, because, you know, the system was never ever correct. Right. The system was never ever designed for us to excel, but still we did.
Right.
The system was never ever designed. It wasn't. It wasn't designed for us to come together as community. They made sure that, if you're from the Igbo tribe, you go here. If you go, they split us up. So we weren't even speaking the same language from the motherland. They took, you know, we just had a Juneteenth thing, and they were talking about it took 2 years for the people in Texas to find out. I said, that's right, because they took away our drum.
Yep.
Because if we had the drum, everybody would have known.
Would have been there.
Right, you could hear us.
Exactly.
The message would be, the drums as the message. Yep.
Yeah, you could hear us. You can hear us. We don't have to say a word.
So we had music.
Now we're screaming, but it's silent. We're screaming out loud, but it's silent. It's like you can't. It's like a muffle over us. And we are in a situation now where we all know it's Thursday evening, and we are here representing several different states and cities for a real reason. We're not here just to chat. So I know all of us have the wherewithal, the ability, the know-how, the smarts, the wisdom between us. Just between us, we have hundreds of years of experience. Think about it. At least 100. At least 100 years. At least 100 years of experience.
That's minimal.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I can come up with a few ideas for how we can get 7 letters to go to certain states. We just have to get the narrative together. And the thing about it is, if we don't know what we want, it's hard to articulate what we want. And so even in, like, business every day, like I work with people every day who got 19 ideas and 30 ways to do something and 20 days to do it. But when I sit down with them, they don't know what they want for real.
Right.
They just want a job, to be honest. If you break it all down and chop it all up, the bottom line is they need a job. They need some regular income that comes in once a week, twice a week, once a month, however that works, right? So there's a difference between I have an idea and would you help me start a program or a foundation or something like that, or can you help me find a job in my passion? Those are different. Those are just different. I just want us to somehow figure out what we want first. And then I'm one of the ones that can get you to your ends. I can get you there if you know what it is you want. But if I have to spend all my energy trying to get you to decide what it is you really want, that's counterproductive. So we don't want to do that. But we do want to make sure that whatever we want, we get it to the right people now. This is the only chance we're going to get some of this black money that's just recirculating right back into the same hands it's been in. We've never had a time where there wasn't money dumped in the inner city urban communities. That's where all the money goes. It just never reaches our children. What do we do about that?
That is the
I just think we're
you got to change the attitudes of those people that are in those places in the school system, where they're not trying to make the black teachers be the principals or the caregivers or the ones that's going to be the ones that disciplines them. Because those white folks don't know how our children are, what they need. But that's when she was saying in regards to don't let the oppressor teach your children.
Well, we got to pay attention to that. Maybe we don't need to be in their institutions. Maybe we do need to create something that works for us. It's never ever going to be designed. If we're going to think that the powers that be are going to dump thousands of dollars into our classroom, that is not going to happen. But we don't need thousands of dollars. We need basics. I got young people that cannot read and they're grown. It's like we need basics. I'm drilling my 7-year-old granddaughter. You're learning your times table. Well, when I ask you, you got 5 seconds to give me the answer.
Correct.
And if you can't give me the answer in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you need to go back. Let's go back to the drawing board.
Well, I'm telling you the Department of Education line item is $1 trillion annually. There is plenty of money sitting there. The question is,
you see where Betsy DeVos
where it's never getting it. It's never getting to us. It's going into like political baggage. Like, I owe you something, so here's $150,000 a year job, and in 3 years I paid you back. So you got this for about 3 years, okay? So once the 3 years is up, I don't know you anymore because I paid you but that. That's all that is. That's what that. And right now we're sitting on 1920s budget. Where is that money?
Right.
We haven't had school. We only had school for 4 months. Where's the money? They split it up. They all put a straw in and started siphoning. It's a recorded line. I said it. This is Katrina. I said it. Where's the money? Show us the money. Who's going to say, show us the money? I can't go by myself, but I will.
Money.
Where is it?
But that may be part of those letters that we write that are universal to all of us. We just need to change the city, and everybody send the same letter.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're going to organize that real quick because that's it. That's the law. That's how it works. But we don't know that. All we know is go vote. This is the most important election of your lifetime. Go vote. All they're going to get you is on camera standing in those long lines, and you don't see any white people in those lines. Do you? When you watch those videos? Ain't none of them in those lines. Okay. That's us. That's all us waiting to vote, exercise our right.
But let's ask the universal question. How has it impacted Black and brown people, regardless of who's in the White House?
It won't, because it's just a party. You either got $1,500 to come or you don't, red or blue.
Including President Obama. How?
Right. Absolutely.
It did not. So Black people don't get seduced by that. It doesn't matter. We have got to circle our wagons. That's what the universe is telling us.
Come on, we beat that man to death. He took that role and turned 30 years older, and it was us that beat him to death. He just couldn't do anything right.
His hands were tied. They told him the day he got elected, you are not going to get a thing through here.
Yep.
No, they beat him to death. And we helped. We helped tie the noose just like back in the day. We were the ones who brought the guy to get tied up to the tree. It was the Black people who brought him over here to get tied up to the tree. And they laughed the whole way. Yeah, your husband about to die. Your daddy about to die. This is what they put in us. And now, right now, today, we're saying the same thing to our children. You about to get it. So-and-so just told. Your brother told. The whole world saying we don't snitch, but they snitch right in the house.
Excuse me, Katrina. I wanted to circle back to something when you were saying about the money. I noticed a lot of, besides the teaching of kids and teachers and schools are getting their budget, I noticed a whole hell of a lot of money is going towards these companies that have the title educational consultants.
Hey! Did you just say that?
Companies.
Let me tell you something now. I dig. I don't know if I dig. I think I'm a magnet for information, right? I really do. And I'm telling you that, okay, Kay and I work for an organization that Kim is talking about, like a collaborative. Back, I don't know when it started, Kay. You can tell them when it started, but it was called the Citywide Youth Coalition. And by the time Kay and Barbara Tenney were sort of moving into their own positions, I was coming up in my 20s, and they moved me, like, following Barbara Tenney. So she left the consultation center, and I entered in her position. So I sort of did, I was sort of, they were my mentors, Kay more specifically. So wherever they pointed me, I went, right? And I found great success every time I followed their direction. So our relationship is real from a place that only God can talk about. But I say this to say, we were running an organization with 70 different youth-serving organizations. And they started. I didn't start it. I can't say I was there from the beginning, but they brought me in to coordinate these efforts. So most of my meat for what you see today, I learned from them, like how to follow up, how to remind people, how to let them know what's happening. And all those things that I do comes from that environment that they taught me. That's what they taught me to do if you want the room full. Now, here we are today, and I remember, Kay and I were talking last week, I remember in my 20s saying to them, why are we still talking about $100,000? Like they would take $100,000 and expect 67 black organizations to split it. Think about what that looks like. It's not even $1,000 a piece. But first, they know half the organizations won't apply for it. They know it. Second, I mean, they want us to submit 90 pages of a grant for $1,000. And then I went to Career High School for summer programming, and they just happen to have their board meetings there every Wednesday. Our award ceremony is our showcase is every Thursday in the same library. Somebody purposefully left me the budget, knowing that I would be there the next day. I walk in and I say, Lord, have mercy. Here is one page of a proposal for $97,000. They got us writing grants, 40, 50 pages, only to steal our ideas. Half of New Haven is running off of what I wrote, and I know it. God knows it. I wrote years ago, that whole West Rock Development Corporation, all of what you see out there, those brand new houses, everybody at the table with me got a street named after them except me, and I know I wrote every syllable came out of my stomach. And I know it. Jennings can't write, and it's the recorded line. I said it. My name's Katrina. He got a street. The one that used to sell the hot dogs got a street. Everybody got a street named after him but me. I'm telling the truth. And God knows I'm telling the truth. God knows I'm telling the truth. There was nobody out there but me and Mr. Jennings. Who else wrote it? Mr. Jennings? Who else? We need to get organized, just like Lady Kim said, and we need to make it happen. And the way to do that, I learned years ago, it's only 7 letters. They just need to all say the same thing. We don't need 900 signatures.
Right.
We don't, you know what I mean? There is a process for how things get done. And people ask me all the time, how you get in the schools? How you get to work inside the schools? I'm saying to myself, well, dog, go through the door. You know what I mean? I just walk through the door. You go through the door. If you don't know something, ask somebody. If they don't have the answer, ask somebody else. You know, and so now.
Anybody listened, I'm sorry, Trina, because you're on such a roll, but if anybody listened to the dialogue that Mr. Bolton gave with The View in regard to why he did not testify in front of the
nobody would have bought his book. This is Elsa from Charlotte. I just have to say, nobody would have bought that book if he hadn't stepped in when he was supposed to. Then he got him out of the office. That's why.
Hold on, tell me that again. Hold on, I want to hear that again.
Hold on.
No one would have bought that book if he had told it, because he knew it from the beginning, and he wanted to get that money.
But
that's where the money's at.
This is my point. This is my point. What he said was he didn't go there because the process. They didn't follow the process. So all I'm saying is, if we know the process,
right?
If we know what it is that needs to be done, we need to do it so that we come out with a win.
That's right. When we have to, in each of these states, we're not reaching for these states just to say we have different states on a call. There's a purpose for why we want to spread ourselves wide and deep, because we've been doing the work locally. It wasn't until we started, what did Dr. Joyner say, cross-pollinating with different states, that we understand. See, we know that before COVID-19 hit, Boston school systems were out of school for 50 days before Christmas, and there was no snowstorm. These people were saying there was going to be weather problems 2 weeks in advance. Think about what I'm saying to you. Boston knew, well, we knew something was going wrong because the PMOSH Collaborative met on Mondays. Every Monday, all of 2019. And the only reason I know what I know about different school systems is because the people who showed up to share that information. If we don't share information, we don't know what it is. We don't know the truth. I can stand in front of Boston. I can go stand in front of, they can't lie to me. I'm from Connecticut or Charlotte. I'm one of those. You know what I'm saying? But I can go to Charleston. And I can share what I know about Charleston in my gut. Why? Because Charleston's been visible the whole time. I know what's going on in Charleston. I know what's going on in Boston. I know what's going on in Charlotte. I know what's going on in New Haven. I know what's going on in Phoenix. And what I didn't know, guess where I am? In Phoenix, so I can figure it out. I'm in Phoenix right now trying to figure out, okay, so what's going on in Phoenix? Phoenix is kind of different. It really is. Phoenix is kind of different on paper. So I don't know what it is for real. But I know I'm going to figure it out before Monday.
Find that paper trail.
Yeah.
But the good thing about this roundtable is that each and every one of you that are on here tonight will get a copy of the raw tape.
Right.
And to do with it as you please. And, you know,
right.
as we move forward in talking about action, even just listening, take the time to listen to this conversation because so much information. Thank you, Clairesay, Clay, for all the wisdom. I don't know if anybody was taking notes, but the sister was throwing out some nuggets tonight. I mean, praise you for all that you gave us tonight. I mean, from the bottom and the top of my head to my feet, I am just filled with so much joy and love for you and everyone that has contributed tonight. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful session. Lady Trina, again, I ask God to continue to bless you and protect you and keep you covered in Jesus' blood, because for you to have the vision to pull this together so that we have this opportunity to have these discussions, to talk about what our community needs, how we're hurting, how the pain that we're all feeling, regardless of where we are geographically, we're all feeling. I mean, we can feel it through the 5G that's going on in this world right now. We can feel it. And so I thank you for giving me the opportunity to co-host with you and for everyone who was on here tonight. It's just been wonderful. You know, it's just been a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Just
Thanks,
wonderful.
Lady Kay and Lady Trina.
Thank you, Lady Clay.
Thank you.
I love the fact we got black sculptures. I didn't even think that we had black sculptures until she said that about Augusta Salvage. I'm like, huh. And I guess a lot of our children don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they make us think we don't know what we're thinking. We know what we're thinking. We know exactly what we're thinking. Sometimes we may not be able to articulate it the way they may want us to articulate it. But because people know what they want. Yeah. Right. Yeah, we are who we are. We're the cream of this crop. We're the salt of this earth. Don't get me started. This whole country was built on our back. All of it, not some of it, all of it. And we may never, ever, ever get another opportunity to claim what's ours. And so what I'm asking is, this is Patrina again. Here's the thing with me. Here's the thing with me. I'll just be straight up and honest. I don't work for nobody. They can't fire me. Nobody hires me, so nobody can fire me. And I am ready to cry loud and spare not. But I'm still, I won't say I'm apprehensive, but I know I need some kind of backbone. Somebody got to stand with me. Somebody has to stand. I am not afraid to say what I need to say. There have been times where they call me into meetings just to trigger me to say something, because I'll say it. And so I've learned in my later years to not say as much. That's why I needed Kay to co-moderate with me so I can hush. like a hush sometimes. Just got to hush, girl. You can't say everything all the time. And so she can pull my coattail. You can pull my coattail. I'm never offended. I've had Dre say, shut up. You talk too much. And I never got upset. It made me laugh because, dog, there goes somebody. There goes one. You know what I'm saying? There's one that will say something. Like, we cannot be passive. We can't wait until September to find out what they're going to do with our children. So I'm going to say this. By Monday, by the time I leave Phoenix, we're going to have a letter for each state that we are represented in. And we're not going to go after accolades or like Patrina's special or Lady Kim is special or Kay is special. No. We're going after transitioning our kids back to school. First, we want to send the message that we're not going to sit out a whole year, because if we do that, it's detrimental to our health, our history, our present, and our future. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that. And if we don't say that and mean it to the powers that be, our children won't be in school this time next year. They're going to leave it to parents. You could all, I don't know who on this call can go and figure out what was put in those doggone, what you call those things that your president signs, those they're not memorandum of agreements. What are those? Executive orders. I can put the right side of my body. Let me tell you something. I love the right side of my body. It's got like a hip and it's sexed up. Yeah, I got the right side of my body. I like it. I need it. But I will bet the right side of my body that the law does not include caring for our children's educational system anymore. I bet you they pulled that out, because that's been since the 1800s. There was a time when you could raise your own children however you wanted. If you wanted them to be Christians, that's what they were. If you wanted them to be Protestants, that's what they were. If you wanted them to be Catholic, if you wanted them to be woodworkers, you wanted them to be auto mechanics, you just taught your children what you wanted them to learn. There was somebody in Massachusetts who decided, I don't like how my father raised me, so I'm going to create this whole thing. He ended up in the government. I don't know if he was a governor or a senator, but when I send you the information on the letter we need to write, I'm going to include his information in it, because I found it just recently, who's responsible. And how I found it was looking up information on charter schools. Should we be planting charter schools? Should we use charter schools to plant Montessori schools? What should we be doing to pull, like Lady Couture said, pull our children out of an environment, and like Lady Clay said, so that we're responsible for what they learn. My aunt, I did a documentary some years ago called Loving My History, a celebration of praise. And my aunt, she said our biggest problem, our biggest mistake was desegregation. We thought desegregation was a good thing when it wasn't. We had black teachers who lived in our neighborhoods who taught us good things. We are the good people. I swear we are the salt of this earth. We are not looking for somebody to knock over and kill. That's not us they see in the news. That's not us. We're not killing 100 people last weekend. We're not killing 30 people in Charlotte, 100 in Chicago. That's not us. That's news, blackface, so the news could perpetrate us as something that we're not. We're God's people. We didn't come for bad. We didn't come to hate. We didn't come to lose either. And we won't. Amen. We won't. Amen. We won't. We will not. We won't let them trample on our children. You trample on our children, our parents don't have a shot.
Hi, it's Lone. Can I say a couple of things?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Lone.
Wow, there's a lot going on. As we're on this call, I have network news on with the volume off. First of all, I'd like to say that it's been reported that your governor in Connecticut will be opening the schools definitely in September. That's what just flashed across the screen. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's a different type of fire, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing correct. That I wanted, I'm sorry?
I said correct.
Oh, okay. Did everyone know
and
that?
Check this out, y'all. I'm on a porch. There's people outside coming on the porch to hear us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Was everyone aware that was happening?
Not in Connecticut, but I know in Charlotte.
I'm in Connecticut.
I'm sorry?
In Charlotte, I know they said in Charlotte the schools are opening on August 17th and will close before Memorial Day. So what that says to me is you can come register your kids on August 17th, and on August 18th we send them all home. That's how I hear it. Somebody speak to me, because that's what I hear.
Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about
Memorial Day is in May.
Go ahead, Lynette.
Memorial Day is not an end date.
Right.
I'm not talking
so
about.
I think that what they're trying to say in Connecticut, from my understanding with the children, they're going to allow high school children to be virtual learners. They're sending K-8s back to school. Now, they have no idea how that's going to work as yet. Are they going to have them come in phases? Because because New Haven, for one, always had overcrowded classrooms. So even if they cut them in half, they still are going to have too many kids. So, they haven't quite figured out, is it going to be every other day that one cohort goes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week? The next cohort goes Tuesday, Thursday. Then the following week, the next cohort goes. You know what I'm saying? So they haven't quite figured that out. They haven't really figured out how they're going to do the safe distance thing. I mean, I don't know how you can do that with a kindergartner. Because I see, I'm living with a 7-year-old and she wants to hug and kiss everybody. So that it's going to be kind of interesting. I know that Southern, which is the university down at the end of the street, they're not allowing any outside people come in because, I had scheduled a conference there for September 12th, and they told me last week that we had to cancel it because they're not allowing any outside entities to come in that they can't control. So they're using several of the ballrooms so that as classrooms, so that they're setting up desks, chairs with desks on them at distance so that these students can come back. They're not coming back at full capacity, even at that level. I think they're doing more distance learning for the upperclassmen, and they're trying to give the freshmen and sophomores some semblance of a college experience. That's all I've heard directly from educators, as I am not an educator in that sense, but I am an educator in other ways. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Right. So, with that in mind, I think that we've all been primed, those of us who are teaching in some capacity as well as running, any type of educational program and so forth. We've all been primed now at this point to be versatile in that it's about duality right now, in that we need to be prepared to present a virtual program or curriculum or, whatever it is that will happen virtually, as well as being prepared to return, whether it be a staggered week or hours or grades or whatever it is that we all are involved with. And so that, with all of that said, and then, the question I had directed to timing and in terms of who are the points of contact that legitimately have power to make a difference if they are contacted, and on what level, because I know, dealing with elected officials and, in varying degrees, they all have their political agendas and their platforms. So, I'm thinking that that's not necessarily who I would look to, as well as, I'm sorry.
It would be the chancellor.
I said no. That was a sound effect.
Oh, okay. And the chancellors, they oftentimes, I find, are figureheads, who have to report to, the mayor and the governor and, these other people, right? So, it's great. We know words have power and all of that. But, in terms of getting to people that have that agenda, who do you think really at this point can make a difference if, in fact, that is your agenda to reach those people, because at this point, I know for myself, I work in an independent program. I develop curriculum. I develop programs, but, I have my own bureaucracy that I have to deal with the higher-ups that I work with. However, I still have a certain amount of flexibility in what I can bring to a workshop or, the classroom setting or whatever it is. I know that, and Clairesay, I love you dearly. You and I have had this conversation repeatedly about the bureaucracy of the DOE. So that's just another realm when you start stepping into that bureaucracy, which is way wider and deeper and layered.
It's deep and it's layered, but we have an opportunity now to use the words black, brown, and poor. So we ought to put those where they belong. And I mean, okay, think about it this way, Lene, you are a vendor for the New York school system. Lady Clairesay is definitely in the school system. There are other teachers and administrators. But I know that, I am a vendor for the State Department of Education in New Haven, but I'm...
Hello? Uh-oh, hello?
Hello?
Oh, no, she got disconnected.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, okay. So in the meantime, while she calls back, I mean, I know Auntie Kay, you had mentioned before about contacting secretaries of state in reference to the Voting Act, right? Who, I mean, the obvious would be one thing, but, I mean, there's really people behind the scenes that push that paper and get it on to the priority pile. You know what I'm saying? In terms of submissions, that I think that in itself, because I've written a lot of proposals and I've got programs approved and I've raised funds and done different things, from my platform. However, I think, that what we're talking about here is like a really specific target.
Well,
and I think
also talking because this is a collaborative effort, because there's more power with a fist than it is with an open hand. And so if our agenda is tight, we don't have to worry about what their agenda is because their agenda hasn't worked. And so just like with the Black Lives Matter movement, they had their agenda. I mean, they came out, and it's the same way that the folks come to them asking. So this collaborative has, and I believe that's what Trina is saying, that we have the power within this entity right now that has been created to do that. We don't have to worry about what their agenda is. It is our agenda that we want them to pay attention to, and that we want them to fund.
Yeah, I think, and I appreciate that.
And they will come. Or you build it, and they will come.
Right, and I know you say that from experience. I think what I'm asking specifically is who is the they, because I know there is a they that can assist with this process, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone in government and so forth and so on is corrupt, right? We know this. I know, some senators and some other people that are on the ground all the time fighting for a legitimate cause. 3 black Congress people have just been elected, who claim to have educational platforms and health care and this, that, and the other. Are those now the people? Do we have relationships with them? Should we? That's really what I'm thinking about. Like who, who are the agents of change, I think, right now, that may be helpful. Because really, I mean, think about it. We all know all you need is that one right voice, that one in, and that can create a whole lot like we're seeing right now.
Well, again,
so
as we identify those change agents, those are the folks that we contact and that we have championed the work that we're setting out to do. I mean, this call is a power broker right now. I mean, the folks that are on this call, I mean, the people that are here, even those that are silent, they do things after this phone call is made and we hang up and we go back to our respective lives. People, call in, with their little testimonies to Trina and let them know, or I'll get some information from somebody saying this may help, and towards what you're working on. So let's again seize these opportunities. When Trina says that the letters are going to be ready on Monday, that we are going to send out, trust me when I say they will be ready, because we'll make sure that they're ready. We will make sure. We have done overnights, where we to the grind, and we're not afraid to do that work. As long as we're willing to do the work, and we're not afraid of risk, because that's what our ancestors did. They took chances. They took chances on making sure that we have what we have today. Shame on us if we don't do anything with it. Shame on us.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%.
It's hard, but it's okay. With all that we have going forward every day, we'll just make it happen. So yes, to answer your question, I agree with you. We should target those new champions who are being elected. If you know of 1 or 2 people in the city that you represent on this call, if you know somebody at your local Board of Ed, write their names down, and let's write the names down of the folks that we need to target in your town, so that we can make sure that they are championing the work that we are going to do. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about people right now who, of course I'd have to have like an inquiry to see if that's really their platform, because I really believe time is of the essence. And I think, I just think for the sake of not spinning wheels, like I really embrace target marketing, so to speak. And so, I think that for me personally, I just want to do the research and make sure that is the person with that agenda, with that platform, who has a certain amount of power, you know what I mean, so that their voice is respected and heard as well, It's just really, really interesting. I guess my other, just real quick, I wanted to make mention that some of the police reform, I don't know if it's the grade 8. I got to read a little bit more about it, but I did see that a law was recently passed called the George Floyd.
No chokehold, no. Yep.
Yeah, that was part of it, exactly. And there were like 4 other points to it. And I know the grade 8 was really like the long-term vision, so if there's 4 points out of the 8, that's a start, but I know that that's not the end game, I know that's not the end game as well, and the fight is, it has to continue, right? And then my last point real quick is that I just wanted to say that, in reference to alternative ways to educate our youth and alternative means, I have to really give a lot of credit to Clairesay and Blerd City because, I've known, like, we've run in the same circles for many years, and then we became close, like I'd say the last 5 years or so, and she, just really embraced me and allowed me to express my creativity inside of the Blerd City Conference from day one. And with that, there's so much information, and so, like, people are so willing and so giving to the organization, to be a part of it, because they understand the urgency of, an alternative means of education. And I say that in that, I've witnessed with, conference with, like, people who are doing such major things in an industry that has traditionally been, white male dominated, like, for example, animation, to have a panel of 6 Black illustrators, animators who work for Blue Sky Studios, for example, who, have worked on, like, Ice Age, Ferdinand, Madagascar, these, like, major box office producing films, and they freely give of their time and their information. And, they always say, we're coming back next year. You don't even have to worry about it. You're doing a conference, we're there. So, I just want to say that it is a movement, it is a village, it is a community. If you have not experienced, anything like that on that level, then, by all means, shameless plug, when that conference comes back again next year, it is the ultimate opportunity to, embrace an alternate form of education that allows not only blerds, but people who are labeled as learning disabled or on the spectrum. I see them come to that conference and they live. They really, really live. They find their place there. Whereas, in mainstream, they may not be embraced, but so many of them have a special talent, gift, or ability that blossoms inside of that conference. So going back to the original statement, yes, why wait for whoever it is, because they say we have to, graduate from, public school system and this, that, and the other. But in terms of, just additional and alternative means of education, there are a lot of people here who are developing that type of programming. So, yeah, we don't have to wait for them. Auntie Kay, you've had a school before, based, okay, you were Montessori educated. However, you still brought your own flavor to the program.
That's right.
Which impacted many lives, children's lives, and encouraged them to think critically and, understand who they are as children of color. So that's my little 3 cents. Thank you for that.
You add up to a whole bunch more than 3, girl. I can add it up for you. Let me add it up for you. I'll do it on the other side. I won't do it now. But I just appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm glad to hear you back.
Yeah. They pushed me. Yeah, I got cut off for a minute. So
Yeah.
I understand when they say I talk too much. The line said cluck. I get it. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
So, you know.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But this has been all that.
And
Clairesay, you have done this tonight. Clairesay, you have done this tonight. You sitting in the hot seat causing all this commotion. So before we now somebody look at their clock. Somebody just tell me what time it is.
11:34.
34. Okay, so now listen. Last night we had our pre-session with Clairesay, Brooklyn born. And how long did that go? Almost 3 hours. So everybody on this call, anyone who would be on this call tonight would have been there last night and never got off the line. You get what I'm saying? So we were there for hours just getting to know one another and understanding where we're coming from. And that's what it's all about. And that's how collaborative partnerships work. We have to know one another, or at least want to. And so collaborative partnerships, in my view, they take on a whole lot of different forms. They do, and I started so young that policy is pretty much where I belong, but political is what stopped me. Political meetings and being around political folks and understanding that they're the ones who you come out of a meeting and they're the ones whose car is smashed up against the side of the building, and you're like, well, isn't that your car? Why did you ask me to walk out here with you? Like, I don't want to hang with you. They just banged your car up against a doggone Holiday Inn while we were all inside of it, and I didn't even hear the wall shake. So somebody must have known that the wall won't shake if you bang somebody's car into the Holiday Inn on Whaley Avenue. Because we were all sitting in there having breakfast, and I didn't hear the building go boom or nothing. But I walk outside with a political leader who I think is leading me to my next whatever. And I don't want no parts of this because her car is smashed. Her car is smashed up into the building while we were sitting there. So it reminds me of something from TV. Yeah, it's real. So politics for me, I don't want to tell kids what to do and what not to do. But politics is more of what you do than whether you pull a trigger or not. Like we go stand in these lines and we pull a trigger and then we don't know the process. We don't know to write a letter. And if we write a letter, our letter doesn't mean anything if we don't have 6 more. And then it may be even changed since then, since the 7-letter spiel I got was some years ago. It might be 12 letters now. But we need to figure that out, and we need to figure it out like yesterday. And then force the hand that they play.
Yeah, because they're about to change the rules again.
They're changing them as we
master it. As soon as we master, and you know we master everything, they change the rules.
Of course. That's what they do best.
But this is a win-win, darling. For all of us on this, it's a win-win.
That's right. That's right.
It's beautiful.
Okay, take us out, because if we don't stop, we won't.
I know. We will go on like that ever-ready battery and on and on and on. Yes. So, are you full, children? Did you get any of the crumbs?
Yeah. I'm sweeping them. Don't worry. I got the broom. I got that wide broom like from the maintenance department.
Are you over there moaning and groaning and rubbing your belly? Is your belly full?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope that each and every one that's on this call this evening has done just that, has received, because the gifts that were given from purity. The gifts were definitely brought over on this ship, landed in Brooklyn, and just so grateful, Heavenly Father, this evening for all that you have provided, and you have provided so much for us tonight, and we are grateful to you. We are grateful for everything and every person that is on this call, Lord. As we close out tonight, we ask that you continue to bless us. You continue to watch over us and continue to give us the gifts and the talents, the joy, the happiness, the peace, the love that you have always promised and that you keep your promise to us again as we go forward. In the name of Jesus, we pray this prayer. Amen. Good night, everyone. Blessings, blessings always.
Amen.
Amen. Good night. Blessings to you as well.
Amen.
Blessings, everyone.
Blessings.
This call is adjourned.
Thank y'all so much. I enjoyed it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.